Friday, September 22nd is a huge night of racing at Harrah's Hoosier Park. We have tons of stakes action on the card, headlined by, I guess, the Caesartrotting Classic would be the top billed event, though they also have the Hoosier Park Pacing Derby. A lot of great wagering on the card with a $20,000 guaranteed pick four, which is what we're going to talk about today. There's a $25,000 guaranteed super, a $15,000 guaranteed high five in the final race. You can watch all the action live. You can also get free PPs for the card by looking at that QR code that we have up on the screen and going to that page. Or you can go to drf.com/harness and you can click on one of the banners and it'll take you right to where you need to go. We're going to dive right into the pick four. It starts with race number 12, $20,000 guaranteed pool. This is the Harrah's Hoosier Park Pacing Derby, $175,000 on the line. And morning line favorite at 8-5 is By the Missile. And I would say he's the one to beat, Matt.
Yeah, he's deservedly so. He's the aged pacer that's really stepped up and taking control of this division. It was kind of muddy waters early on. We didn't know, who was a standout, and it took a little time. But By the Missile has stamped himself as the one to beat in this division. I got to believe. So even though the post isn't the best, the race does go through him. He will be forwardly placed. I have to imagine he will be on the lead at some point, hopefully by the 3/8 of the half. And judging by what I've seen recently, it's going to take a lot to chase him down, I think.
He was on the lead last time in the Area Invitational. We're going to take a look at that race where he faced Allywag Hanover. And, I think everyone would admit that he got away with really soft fractions, Matt.
Yeah, don't forget they're going 1.25 miles here also. And yeah, once he made his way to the lead, he was able to rate the middle portion of the race. Nobody came after him, but that's the respect, that the top horse is going to get once he hits the front. And you see he drew away with plenty left. Obviously, the added distance didn't hurt him. He kind of stretches back out to the longer track here. And like I said, deserving favorite. However, not a key in my sequence. I'm also going to use two other horses. The aforementioned Allywag Hanover, who he's had a nice kind of comeback type season the last few starts after kind of a slow start. And the one Panda Warrior making a second start of the year we saw in the Dan Patch, and we saw that close from the clouds to storm by, and he's followed that up with 3 solid efforts in opener invitational races at Hoosier. I don't know if where he's getting away from the rail or what kind of trip he's looking at, but the ability is there and the late speed is there. That's for sure.
Yeah, if you go back and look at some of those races, the start 2 starts back and 3 starts back for Panda Warrior, the pace really wasn't that quick. I mean, they went 55 and 123, which is pretty slow for the top class, and that kind of, gave him no shot at winning the race. He came home with 25 and 2 starts back, and could only finish second. I think insane. The pace will definitely be faster here. My point is, it's going to be a faster pace this week, so he's going to have something to close into here. I agree with you that Allywag Hanover is the other one to look at on paper, but I didn't use the horse, though I understand why people are using the horse, and he does figure.
Yeah, I mean, I could see it would be logical if Allywag Hanover ends up sitting behind By the Missile at some point, like what happened in the Aria at Yonkers. And you have to imagine it's probably going to be, those two with hopefully Panda Warrior on the outside. And depending on what part of the track he's coming home from, I'm not convinced that anybody else really can step up and prove that they can conquer these top 2 or top 3. Maybe Little Rocket Man, a local favorites who has just an insane winning record. He's another one. He's a perfect type trip. We saw in the race to Sayoto, the UART, he was just way too far back to get involved. I guess you're looking for a 4th horse. It would be Little Rocket Man, but I'm only going to go 3 deep here.
Yeah, I understand completely. The only other note I'll throw in here is don't expect 10-1 on Panda Warrior. I think he'll probably be 3rd choice here. And
Oh
we're going
yeah,
to move on to
he
race number
deserves.
13, which is the Caesartrotting Classic. $210,000 on the line in the Caesartrotting Classic. And, the morning line favorite is It's Academic. And I think that makes a lot of sense. Whether or not Pretender will be second choice, I think, is up in the air, Matt.
I mean, this is an interesting race because you have two of the horses that are going to take plenty of money here are not just have not proven to be the most reliable. Coming back this year from big 2 and 3 year old seasons. That's Pretender and Venerate. Uh, Pretender added the trotting hobbles a few starts back, which I love to see, and I liked him in the Charlie Hill Memorial at Scioto, and he looked like he had aim, like he had a legitimate shot, and then he broke in the final turn. And but you know what? He followed it up with a race over the Hoosier Park Strip, and he behaved himself, and he won quite handily. Um, Venerates. I mean, we saw he was in the international trot. Nice to get it. Good to get an invite, but we realized he wasn't even in contention at any point. He's another one that I don't know if he's quite there yet in terms of recapturing his old glory and being considered at the top of this, at the top of the food chain with the trotters, whereas Itdemic is at the top, and uh, despite losing his last couple of starts, really did not do anything wrong in those races. So I think he's still stamped as the one to beat here.
We're going to take a look at It's Academic's last start in the MGM Yonkers International Trot. You could see he's fourth over right now with David Miller, and Venerate's actually fifth on the rail. And here comes David Miller with that monster move, Matt.
Yeah, he was fourth over, out the mile, also behind stale cover. And this is just a wicked, breathtaking move. To rush up to get to the leader, Vivid Wise Oz, who, as you can see, kind of still has plenty left in the tank. So even though he kind of gets, repelled here and ultimately flattens out, finishes fourth, I don't think there's anything you could take. I don't think there's anything negative you could take away from that effort. I mean, he just had too much to do. So I think that just proves that he's still, even though he hasn't won his last couple starts, he's still, at the top of his game and still razor sharp, versatile. As you can imagine, David didn't dream up this trip, but he's able to rally from the back. And I think that still stamps him as, the one to beat going forward here, even with the two interesting uh, main contenders in Pretender and Venerate. Another horse I like a little bit, maybe at a price, is the Oki Sponstedt entrant. That's number 8, Rattle My Cage, who I think is going to be a decent price. He might be ignored a little bit in the wagering here. Yeah, he's 0 for 6, but he's held his own in all these stakes engagements. Just hasn't gotten over the hump yet, and I imagine he'll be forwardly placed. And he could be looking at a sneaky close up stalking trip here.
I agree that It's Academic's the horse to beat. I am going with a single in this race, and the single is going to be Venerate. I think the International Trot is a complete throwout from the second tier. That was also his first start on a small track. So it was, to me, he had no chance there. Yes, he made a break in the Maple Leaf. Trainer Marcus Melander basically said, I have no idea why he did that. I think that part of this horse's problem was he really hasn't had a chance to race. I mean, because the timing of the races and what he was eligible to and everything just never hooked up. And now he's finally maybe in a pattern where he's racing a little bit more regularly. And I absolutely love him. Moving back to the big track, I love him in this spot. I think Brian Sears can kind of push himself away, get into a decent position, whether he's sitting second or third or whatever is fine. Hoosier has a really long stretch, gives him plenty of time to make his move. And I think you're going to get a very fair price.
I'm not so sure about the fair price aspect, but I think he will take money. I mean, he deserves to take money, and I agree with you. The international trot race was a complete throwout. I do agree with you, and yeah, you make a valid point that maybe he's better off now racing as opposed to a spotty racing record, with qualifiers mixing every other start. Now he has a start, in 3 out of the last 4 weeks, basically. And yeah, I think that will work to his advantage. I personally want to see maybe another effort from him before I jump on board with with whatever remaining stakes races there are towards the end of the season. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not going to use him in my pick, but I certainly do respect him.
Race number 14 is the Alfonso de Rosa Memorial, 22,500 on the line. We have a full field of 11, and I would put this race as next to impossible on the handicapping meter, Matt.
Yeah, this is a tough race. I narrowed it down to a logical 6, and then I narrowed it down. I cut that in half, and I went with 3 horses. Basically, the two. Lay all your love on me with Dave Miller picking up the catch drive, just because he's moving inside after a string of outside posts, 6, 9, 7 hole, 8 hole, 6 hole. Maybe he gets some sort of different trip here, and you can wake up with Dave Miller. The 4 walking out of sunshine. Yeah, he doesn't win often, but he's obviously has good form, and he's logical from a good post. And the 6 Dixie Dream, this 3-year-old filly, he's probably the most accomplished in this field, at least this year. And he's another one that shows a strong win 2 back in an Indiana sired race. But yeah, there's you can go a lot of different directions here. I narrowed it down to 3 of them. I don't even know who's going to be the favorite in this race, to be honest with you. And then the outside you have 2 Irv Miller horses. Not the outside, one on the outside, one on the second tier, with the 9 and the 10 picking up Scott Zeron and Dexter Dunn just to make this race a little more interesting. But yeah, I narrowed it down to 2, 4, 6, and just basically keep my fingers crossed.
My single, the previous race, allowed me to use those 9 and 10 on there, so I have 2, 4, 6, 9, 10 in this leg, and Matt's basically covered it. You have a few horses, a bunch of these horses have been racing against each other. Dixie Dream's the most consistent. The 2, 9, and 10 are all getting driver changes to Grand Circuit type guys.
Right.
The 4 is probably the fastest horse, but he hasn't been able to necessarily seal the deal enough for me.
Yeah, I agree. Like I said, he's certainly logical. He has good form. He's always right there, but it's not a horse that you can absolutely rely on. Yeah, a very tough race. I don't even know how. It's hard to even guess how it's going to shake out here. And if some long shot big price won, it would not shock me at all. But yeah, I think it's like I said, it's just a fingers crossed, hope you get by type race.
We're going to move on to race number 15 to close this out. It's $20,000 on the line in the Ryan Wilcox Memorial. This race also has a $15,000 guaranteed high 5 pool. And this 11-horse field, while I think it's still difficult, I think it's maybe slightly easier than the 14th race.
Yeah, I mean it's still a very competitive race, but there seem to be a handful of horses that don't figure to be involved in the pace at all, or figure to be have an impact on this race. I did end up spreading a little, going 4 deep, using the 3 and 4, which are the two logical horses. 3 for Joey Putnam, driven and trained. The 4 Granite, Michael Oosting, that's a Ken Rucker trainee. You always got to watch out for those. The 6 RJ Rocks can come from on or off the pace. He shows a win 2 back in a complement type class. And the 8 I'm going to throw in there as a price. Doesn't show much form, but you know what? It is a barn change and a driver change. And basically that's my only angle. And you're going from the Rucker barn to the Charles Stewart barn, and you're picking up Trace Tetrick. And although he's 0 for 27 on the year, whatever, just my barn change angle, because if he wins, you could look back and go, wow, that was a barn change. And he figures to be a big price. So that'll be my sneaky long play. But yeah, this race deserves coverage also. So I did go 4 deep.
My top pick was RJ Rocks, mainly because I feel like I look up and down this field and I don't see a ton of early speed here. And I think this is a horse that maybe could take advantage of that. There's certainly no early speed, to the outside, and maybe the 9, could go. But other than that, I don't see much. And the inside, the 2 right to his inside don't seem super fast. Though Art is a horse that has left in the past. And that horse is a horse I used on my ticket here. Interesting. The horse is dropping out of the Hoosier Cup and was in some Indiana stake races here. Previously, his last condition start was in a non-winners of 6,000, which is a couple classes maybe higher than the race he's in here. I mean, I'm just curious why you didn't use that horse on here, Matt. And you can see my tickets
I,
up there.
you
It's
know what?
$15.
He had a big 2-year-old season. We made it back to over 160,000, and this year 12 starts, 1 win, $10,000 earned. Doesn't inspire that much confidence. I'm sure the connections we're hoping for a little bit better, moving on from his 2 or 3-year-old season. But yeah, I mean, I just looked at his record, his earnings, and yeah, he does have a couple of decent second place finishes in his last two. But to me, he just has a look of an underachiever here, and one that's not going to offer that much value. So I'll take a shot and pitch him. So that's
Well,
my reason.
I spent $15.
Sorry.
Matt spent a little bit more than me this time here.
Yeah, because I don't have a key. We talked about the top three in the first leg at the pick with the Ponda Warrior and By the Missile and Ally Hanover. Quite logical. It's Academic, Rattle My Cage. And then the last two races, which you said, are both spread races. We talked about 2, 4, 6 in a basically keep your fingers crossed race, and 3, 4, 6, 8. So yeah, it's a little bit pricier ticket, but I don't see any really big, chalky outcome in this race. So maybe in the sequence, so maybe it deserves a little bit more coverage.
6:15 post time at Hoosier on Friday night for the big card, 15 races. Of course, as we said, we have free PPs, we have live video, and via DRF bets, we have a 5% rebate on all wagers except for show wagering. So click on that QR code and check it out, or go to the website and drf.com/harness. Click on the banner; it'll take you right to the page, and you can enjoy Hoosier Park on Friday. Good luck.